Hi, Dad. Welcome back to another episode of Dave and Andy's Honest About Life. I'll start over.
I'm sorry. Speaking of this, I got to turn this off somehow. Okay. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, don't be. At some point, like I stalled this morning, just before we started because the garbage man was out there. So you could hear the garbage truck. The dog's going to bark and all that. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Hi, Dad. Welcome back to another episode of Dave and Andy's Honest About Life. How are you?
I'm doing well, Andy. Great to see you as always.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be here with you too, Dad. And thanks for giving me your time. If you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about some of the technologies that you've seen come into existence in your time. One of the things that I remember about growing up with you was obviously you had a great interest in the weather. It was really important to you to be plugged in all the time, even when you weren't at station. And one thing that I can remember, you were really cutting edge. You decided to put a small TV in your car. Remember that? And plug it in. It was a work.
So illegal because I put it in the front dash. It's just illegal as heck. But I'm sorry.
I remember you tearing apart the front dash and finding a way to plug in. Was it a 12-volt television? Was it black and white?
Yeah, it was black and white TV, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, but it wasn't much.
What was the purpose?
Because I did want to stay kind of plugged into the weather. So when there was storms and stuff going on, instead of having a radar, which would have been much more expensive, I just bought the cheapest little 12-inch TV. Well, it wasn't even 12 inch; it was probably a 9-inch TV, and I found a way to hook it up. I think it was 12 volt. It must have been 12 volt. So yeah, plugged it into my car system. It was a fairly new Mustang that I got too. It was a brand, and it was daring to rip apart the dash like that because I was out there with a Sawzall cutting a hole big enough for the TV to fit in. Oh, it was crazy.
And you had a shortwave radio in your trunk too, didn't you?
I did. I had to have that. So when we'd be chasing and stuff, I had this radio, and I'd be able to communicate with the camera crew or the producers that were along with us. And that I had kind of plugged into the trunk, and I had wired the wires under the floorboard or something, so that all I had to do was pick up my microphone that I had, and we could communicate. So that was pretty cool. And I felt like, we were big time storm chasers.
I bet you did. Speaking of the storm chasing, I see that they're thinking about remaking the movie Twister.
Really?
You and I talk about this because it's kind of goofy, right? To see a cow flying through the air,
It does happen, but you don't see it. It
Right.
does happen, but we just weren't there because we've seen farm animals have been carried a mile away from their farm. So obviously they were flying through the sky, but I don't know if anybody has gotten pictures of that. But that movie kind of really took off because it was during a time when the weather was pretty active when that movie was being made. And there were a lot of tornado cases. I can't remember. The largest outbreak was April 4th. And what year was that? It was a huge outbreak in the southeastern part of the country. It started actually around the Mississippi River Valley and went eastward. And there were hundreds, if not thousands, of tornadoes reported. So that, those are kind of interesting cases that, everybody kind of was interested in storm chasing, and it was kind of exciting. Thankfully, people that do storm chase are pretty smart, pretty savvy about how to stay safe during a tornado chase.
Do you think about, the technology that's coming online to improve our ability to predict things like tornadoes, and then to track them and then to alert, people in the path? Do you see it getting even better?
Yeah, every day. I totally agree that the things that are in technology right now, the technology is starting to produce produce results in actually figuring out different variables, different parameters. And it's got, the computer programs that they're using are huge, and they can really digest a ton of information. So the more information we can put in, the better information we get out. And it's usually, it's pretty accurate on where something is going to occur. So the Storm Prediction Center is amazing. I mean, literally they put where there's going to be a marginal risk, or just thunderstorms, then a marginal risk, then a slight risk, then enhanced, and then a high risk. And they are so good at it. It's gotten to be phenomenal how good they are at predicting an area that may be, 100 miles wide. They can figure out in that one area where the tornadoes are going to happen that day.
Do you see yourself doing that again, Jason? Tornadoes?
Yeah, I just did the other day. I was with Jonathan Yuhas with KSTP. He was actually in a separate vehicle, and so was I, and we kind of met. And it was in Iowa. There was a fairly large, it was a good outbreak, and we captured 3. And we actually were on one tornado that Jonathan was on one side, so we got it from 2 perspectives, 2 different views of the same storm, the same tornado. So yeah, we say it's exciting, it's fascinating, but it's also, we're learning. I mean, literally, we do learn what kind of thunderstorm is. I've learned so much in what type of thunderstorm is going to create a tornado, and just by looking at the structure of that thunderstorm, you can tell whether or not this thing is going to produce or it isn't. And I think that information is very helpful. It's helpful. Jonathan's still on the air, still predicting weather. And that type of information, he can look at a thunderstorm and say whether or not he believes that's going to produce a tornado, even though there may not be a tornado watch out. Some people are very good at figuring that out because they've over experienced. Jonathan's chased storms for a long time, and I did for a long time. So you get very in tune with what certain thunderstorms are going to do.
That, and I believe it. The more time you spend doing anything, ideally it'd be something you're passionate about, like it is in your case. But the more time you spend doing anything, you'll get better at it and start to see things that others won't see. Did Jonathan share some of the video, some of the imagery that you caught? Did he share it on air?
He did. I had a very poor. I think he did put some of it on the air. I had a very poor camera. I had a very old phone, and that's what I was using, which was dumb. I came back, after we put 1,400 miles on our vehicles in one day, and we, once I came back home, the next day I went out and bought a new phone, because you need something better when you're viewing the storm. And his pictures were phenomenal. Mine not so much, but we still got a very interesting perspective from 2 different sides of one storm. So it was pretty cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Dad. I look forward to, hopefully someday, not only myself, but I know my daughter Skylar would love to, obviously in a safe way, actually see a tornado, and ideally not a tornado that does a lot of damage. But
right, never want that. We never want tornadoes to hurt anybody. We like to see it when it's happening. There's nothing we can do we're not creating it. I mean, it's happening, so why not be there to watch it and maybe even help people along the way, give interest. We've given information to the National Weather Service that helps them put out warnings for certain areas. Spotters, that they're unbelievably good for the whole system of warning, because that eye on the ground, actually out there in the field seeing it, is the best thing you can have. Eyewitness to a storm is something that can't, even though radars are really good and they can figure out where it's happening, to see it and to actually see it live now, the way you can live stream everything, it's phenomenal, and it's going to do nothing but help us all.
Oh, it's powerful. Well, thank you, Dad. Thanks for another session with me, talking about weather and something you care deeply about, and I look forward to it. And at one of these points, we'll get Jonathan Yuhas on the show, and and talk to him about it too. I think he'd like that. I know I would love that.
That'll be fun. Yeah, he's got a lot of interesting stories and he's got a lot of very fascinating perspective, which I think would be fun for everybody to hear.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you, Dad. Love you. We'll see you soon.
Love you, pal. See you soon.